Well, hello, and welcome to Embracing Change with me, Reverend Alicia Leslie from Spirit of Unity. It's my cyber ministry, but it's basically about what I call myself, the mundane mystic. It's looking for the spiritual in everyday activities and learning how to align ourselves spiritually for a better life and a better world. The tagline for Unity at this time is creating a way of life that works for all. Doesn't that sound exciting? There have been several taglines over the years, and a beacon of truth for the spiritual community it was one time, and it still is. We just change it up from time to time to help people to open their hearts and their minds about who and what we are. Well, today, as I shared with you the other day, is probably the last time you're going to have a video until a week or two or three from now. It all depends how my schedule goes. I have denominational commitment meetings. I have that for 2 weeks, and right now, as of tomorrow, if you're in Connecticut, we're going to be doing the Sun RV and Camping Show at the Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. So come check out some trailers, motorhomes, all kinds of ways of vacationing, and they've got lots of good things to eat. I like that. And so that's where I'm going to be for this weekend, and then I jump right into admissions meetings next week. So I wanted to make it special, and I let you know tonight is going to be story time. I am going to share with you my first story of this season. Some of you may not be aware that I support my sister and her husband at their campground, physical support. I help them out in the office and on grounds, and I am the campground storyteller. So picture this. You're at the campground, you're sitting around your campfire, and all of a sudden, someone comes up and says, "Hi, I'm the campground storyteller. How would you like a story tonight?" All the stories I share are my own that I have written. It's like sharing my babies with people. And I love sharing it. And I think it's wonderful. Actually, there's many times that when I say to people, "How would you like a story tonight?" they go, "No, I don't think so." And I get kind of sad because I know what I have to give them is really, really nice. And I think they may be afraid I want money for it, but I don't. I do it out of the love of my heart. Sometimes I get money for it. That's very nice. Now, if there's anyone watching that is one of our campers, especially Crystal Aronson and any of her group, or some of the other groups that come and love my stories, better turn this one off if you don't want a spoiler alert, because that's what it is tonight. This is a premiere. Ooh, like a Hollywood premiere. Maybe you should go get all dressed up and get yourself something fancy to eat or drink. You're at a world premiere. On the other hand, it's also like those shows that they do on Broadway, where they do the trial shows off Broadway to see how the show is going to go, because you're going to be the first public group that I have read it to. So I hope you're as excited as I am, because I'm pretty excited. But before we get to that, and after the story, you're going to get a little synopsis of how that reacts in our lives today, what that means to you and to me in our daily lives. because that's what metaphysics are all about. Metaphysics is a philosophy based on the theory that the evidence makes, that the world makes sense. Really, no matter what it looks like, down at the core, it does make sense. So if you want to have a better life, you want to get down to the core. But before we get there, of course, we have to do our tradition, which is the National Day Calendar. Today's National Day Calendar fits right in with what I've been speaking about for the past few days, especially about money. Money. You know, it's tax time coming up. So it's about money, and it's about, we've been talking about right use of money, and the fact that we're challenged because of sanctions and everything, and the supply chain. So we got a lot of things to gripe about, but do not gripe about it. If you gripe about it, you're going to draw more like it to you. Ooh, as my dear friend Emily used to say, canceling a race, love, love, love. If you see yourself walking down a dark alleyway of bummer thoughts, let it go so that you can put your mind on what you want to create. Wait till you see how this fits in. Today is Pack Your Own Lunch Day. It is. Do you know, every time you eat out, you pay 3 times what that food costs? So if you're ordering food out, bring it back to the workplace or whatever, you're spending more money than you really possibly should. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with eating out, but making a habit of it, especially if it's not within your budgetary intelligence, it's not really a good idea. So when you bring your own lunch, a number of things happen. Remember, we talked yesterday about, amongst other things, chefs, cooking schools teach little to nothing, at least they did back in the day when I was graduated, very little about health and nutrition. It's all about the flavor. And that's a good thing, but if you're all about the flavor, you're all about the sense consciousness, especially because the foods that appeal to us most are either salty or sugary or fatty sauces. The higher the calories, the more wonderful the food is. Yet there's wonderful flavor in very good, healthy foods. And if you learn to pack your own lunch, you're going to save money, number 1, but you're going to be healthier, number 2. I also believe that when we prepare food, our energy goes into the food, and so that's why you always want to be in a good mood when you're cooking, because if you're in a nasty mood, that energy is going to go into the food, and you're probably going to find out it does not come out right. Does not come out the way you intended it. But the more you love the food, the anticipation of the food, making it, who you're going to share it with, the better the food comes out. If you want to read a really good book that has that concept in it, it's a wonderful little novel called Like Water for Chocolate. Highly recommend. The movie is good, but only if you like subtitles, because you got to be following along in the subtitles. Okay. It's also, and I really didn't want to mention this because it's way too in the line of temptation, and everything I just said was challenging. It's National Blueberry Popover Day. Oh my stars. Now, if you don't know what a popover is, it is, it's a popover. There's no other word. It is made in a popover pan, and it comes out looking like a muffin or a roll. And so you put it in the pan, and it's like you know, you got a little bit of pan on top and then you put it in the oven. And a cast iron popover pan is best. But if you don't have one, then you can find even custard cups and like that'll work. So you put it in the oven, and a little while later, when it's time to come out, it's puffed way up, which is why it's called a popover. And when you break it open, it is full of it's like a shell with little soft fillings full of bubbles in it and everything. It's very airy. And you put some butter on that baby, and you eat it, and it is fantastic. So because one of my Lenten plans is to try to lose something, so far no good, but I'm working on it. But if I had popovers with that drippy, runny, beautiful melted butter on it, especially if it's filled with blueberries, which is what today is the National Blueberry Popover Day. I think I just gained weight just thinking about it, but we got to get out of there before I gain any more weight. I wanted to talk also about our days and our years and how things change. I posted a funny meme the other day, and it said, if you want to terrify or freak out the younger generation, lock them in a room with a rotary dial telephone. Oh, phooey, I forgot the rest. A rotary and an analog clock, you know, where you got the hands and something else, which I can't remember right now, but it was so funny because there's a lot of things they don't even know how to use anymore that were very common to us. Over the time changes, some things get better, some things don't get better. I personally am not a big fan of kids using calculators in school, especially in lower grades. We have to learn the basics first. We have to learn so that we can do it, whether we have electronics or not. If you think about, I think everybody should be taught how to use an abacus. I don't know how to use one, but I think they're pretty fascinating. Think about being in the Ukraine right now. Their power's all out. Most people can't reach anyone or do anything. This is the time when you have to rely on the skills you have. Well, that's going into another area. That's not my plan today. My plan is to stay on a lighter side with my story. But before we get to the lighter side, there's something else that's a part of current events that made me realize the changes that we have gone through since I was in high school. I was graduated from high school in 1963 and foolishly married in 1964. I got married the day after I turned 19. Why? In those days, if you weren't married by the time you were 20, 21 years old, there was something wrong with you. Heaven forbid, I did not want there to be anything wrong with me. I had to get married. When I say I had to get married, I don't mean I had to get married. We didn't have kids for 3 years down the road. But today, there's not so much a rush. Unfortunately, there's a lot of, I don't have to rush because we're going to live together, which Dr. Laura says, shack up. The important thing is the solidity of a relationship. But I'm off track again. Dear goodness, I feel like I'm in a bunch of tumbleweeds and can't find my way out. Let's go back. Okay, back to changes in the way things are. Now, today in Florida, and it's been happening a few days in a number of different schools, there was a walkout in the high school. And that was over the new law that was made there called Can't Say Gay. And it's where the people are not allowed to, the teachers are not allowed to discuss these issues. Well, when I was in school, nobody discussed it, and there wasn't the pressure and the issues that we know of today. I really don't know what it was like for other people because I wasn't there. But in our school, you know what the big naughty thing was that we did? Every year we would have senior skip day. So if you were a senior, you just didn't go to school that day. That was a lot of fun. We did not have the heavy burdens on us that the kids today have. They're fighting things that were non-issues before. Did they exist? Yes, but did they make issues of them? Look, I'm no genius in that department, but I have a heart that aches for young people who have so many burdens on them. Climate change, war, racism. It's just, my heart goes out to them because you know what? It's a world of cause and effect. And the effects that we're experiencing now are the result of causes we sent forth previously and before that and before that. Which brings me to our story. It's called Repossessed. Now you got to remember, this is the first time I've read it publicly, as it were. It is a copyrighted story. I asked you not to copy it because it's my baby. And what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to flip the camera around to my little fireplace so you can make like you are camping and listening to this campfire story. When it's done, I'll flip it back and we can talk about it a little bit. I'm just going to have a little hit of my juice. It's hibiscus and green tea, and I hope it doesn't caffeinate me because, God help me, I gotta sleep sometime. All right, let's turn this, see if we can turn this around. Here's my fireplace, and we will make this. Oh, there we go. That's your campfire. So snuggle in. Relax. Got some tea, coffee, wine, milk, and cookies. Something for your campfire story. Repossessed. The Green family was enjoying a spirited game of frisbee. They were having such fun, friends from the surrounding sites brought their camp chairs over to enjoy the free entertainment they provided. Jay, Carol and Charles Green's son, played to the audience, whipping the frisbee like a discus and sent it flying high and fast. Carol and her husband Charles yelled in unison, "I got it!" then crashed into each other as the flying disc whizzed over their heads. Carol fell backward. She was out cold. Everyone surrounded her, pushing closer and offering advice. Charles lifted her up. "Get her some water. Give her some space. Get back." Carol sat up, dazed. She blinked and drew in a quick breath. Her eyes frantically scanned the faces around her. There was no recognition. When she spotted Charles, she scurried backward, heels pedaling in the dirt to get away from him. Confusion and disbelief filled her eyes, as if she'd awakened in a strange world. She stood and stumbled away. Charles tried to stop her, but she gestured with the palm of her hand. "What if?" she shouted. Her face contorted, unfamiliar with the word that had come out of her own mouth. She sat on a rock. Charles approached her. When he did, Carol sprang up, spun around, and pointed to the ground. On your knees, obeisant, or my fires I will have your heads. As soon as the words were out of her mouth, she came to herself. She shook her head. What was that all about, Charles? He dared not move closer. I have no clue. How do you feel? Weird, but I'm starving. Would you please get me some dates? Charles' brow furrowed. Dates? We didn't bring any dates. You don't even like dates. This infuriated Carol. Why you say Carol? I am Atlet. Don't quest, don't me who ya? I say dates. There is markets down the state. Her words were a mishmash of English and some unknown dialect. It took every bit of strength for Charles to contain himself. For months he'd questioned the viability of their marriage. In the early years, he could handle her strong personality and fiery temper. But over the years, his resolve had grown thin, and his love was fading. How you go? Wait, where are we? Where my purr? I need sleep. This way, I'll let. He led her to their motorhome and opened the door with a sarcastic bow. She looked at it with disdain, as if it were beneath her. I'm going to the store. I'll be back in a few minutes. Once in the car, Charles slammed his hands on the steering wheel. She doesn't even like dates. Whoever this crazy split personality she was demonstrating was, it was still the same pig-headed BS. Yet he wondered why the names Atlet and Huya seemed so familiar to him. Carol closed her eyes and fell into what appeared to be a deep sleep, that it was in reality an odyssey of myth and mystery, afloat on the river of truth. In the dreamlike state, she saw herself in a small Egyptian boat, piloted by Charan, who ferried the dead across the river to the underworld to Duat, and the Temple of Two Truths, where the dead are judged. Terror struck her. She remembered she was Atlet, an Egyptian princess, killed by Huya, the servant she mistreated. Everything was foggy. It was dark and gray. Not knowing how or why, she recognized the hieroglyph carved in a large stone. It was the hieroglyph for Duat, the underworld. She walked toward the light of torches in the distance. In the light of the torches was a figure of a man with the head of a dog. It was Anubis, Egyptian deity for the passage of souls. He stands by a large balance scale. In one pan of the scale was a feather. Atlet stands by the other pan. Anubis reaches into her chest and brings out a glowing object. It is her heart, not her physical heart, the heart of her soul. Anubis turns to place the object on the other pan. Carol has become one with Atlet. She cannot breathe. Flashbacks flood her mind. They reveal her arrogance and narcissism. She sees Huya's rage, yet in his eyes she sees it's Charles. Her sarcophagus stands behind the scales. It depicts her youthful body, but bears the head of a pig. Anubis places the heart on the pan. If it is not lighter than the feather, she will be annihilated. It falls like a rock. Atlet awaits the darkness of oblivion. Nothing happens. Then she faces 12 judges. They ask her to recount her sins, but she says she knows none. The judges confer. Then she's back in the boat, which now travels in the other direction. Where is it taking her? The river gets rough. She cries out to Charon, "Where am I?" He says nothing. She is on the river of forgetfulness, her only chance for redemption. Scenes appear on every side, dozens of them. It's like a horror version of the Small World ride in Disneyland. She recognizes scenes from her previous lives and recognizes the people she shared them with, the same people in her current life. She wonders, when will it end? The same players, different parts. The scenes are the worst things she has ever done. The hurt she has caused. The lessons she would not learn. It's a living hell of regret. Next, in a French village, she is a man named Gilles, fighting with his wife, Francois. He looks at her emotionless. In the eyes of Francois, again, she recognizes it's Charles. Gilles is leaving Francois because she's getting old and no longer excites him. The scene jumps forward. Francois is dying, alone and lonely in the home they had once shared. Carol feels the pain she has caused, and in that moment hates Gilles, even if it is herself. Now she is a young girl named Alice, running down a path with her brother Christos. She sees beautiful berries and picks some. Her brother pulls her hand. "Alice, Father said not to touch them." She pulls her hand away. "Don't be such a baby, Christos. They are delicious. Have some." He shakes his head. "No." Again the scene jumps forward. She's on her deathbed, watching her father and brother weep because no one can save her. If only she'd listened. This time in the eyes of her father she sees her son Jay. And in Christos, again, the eyes of Charles. So many lifetimes, so much horror and regret. "No more!" she cries. Yet another scene comes. She stands in a crowd of people. A sign posted to a tree says, "Great Sale of Slaves, January 10th, 1855. It lists those who will be auctioned off that day. She is the only woman at the auction. Her elegant pink attire contrasts the dark suits of the men and the rags of the slaves. Her father promised her a housemaid for her birthday, and she insisted she be allowed to come and pick one out for herself. "Oh, I want that one, Daddy," she says as she points to a middle-aged woman. "The post says she's a good cook, and Lordy knows, Daddy, I hate cooking." In the scene, the spoiled Southern belle had no feeling as the woman was yanked away from the children that clung to her. Carol retches as she sees the faces of her family members in the eyes of those whose lives she has just destroyed. They approach the shore. Carol is shaken. An ethereal being wordlessly leads her back to the campground. Once inside the RV, Carol sat on the couch, trembling uncontrollably. What she did not remember moments ago, now she cannot forget. The door opens. "Dates, Your Highness?" Carol flies into Charles's arms and holds his face in her hands. "Charles, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I realize now the pain I've caused. I know I haven't been the best person, but I promise you, I'm a changed woman. She knew she could not undo the past. But what she could do is vow to change her heart and make it feather light. Charles laughed. So, who have I got here? Carol or Atlet? I mean, I was only gone 30 minutes. Oh, I left the dates in the car. I'll go get them. When he got to the car, he grabbed the dates. There was a paper on the floor. He picked it up, and as he walked past the campfire, he tossed it in. The flames licked at the words, petition for divorce, and then it all turned to ash. Did they live happily ever after? Remember, hers is only one side of the story. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you got any feedback, I'd love to have it, especially if it's positive. And just briefly wanted to touch on a few points. That we are in a world of cause and effect. And for every cause we send out, an effect comes back. Now, humankind has created what we call time. In the universe, there is no time. And many, such as myself, do believe reincarnation is a wonderful way to have the time and opportunity to transform our lives and to become better people and more of the divinity that we were always meant to be. And I hope that you could relate as Carol encountered her past lives and the people in them. I kind of like that because it's my hope that I will have many, many lifetimes with those I love. Even if we're struggling and learning together, I love them so much. That is my dream. Are we learning? Well, if you keep having the same kind of lesson come up, doesn't have to be over a lifetime, my friends. It can be right through the one life and its many expressions that we will have between birth and death. Well, till I see you again, can't tell you when that's going to be. Be good. Be good to others. Be the divinity that you are. And let's pray for peace in the Ukraine, around the world, and in our own lives. God bless you.